Hi, I'm Robert Oncoy, and thank you for joining me in this IELTS Task 1 writing video. Today, we're going to look at mixed charts. Now, we're going to look at the scenario where there might be a correlation or connection between the two charts. Let's jump in. Here we have the rubric, which introduces the context and behind the two charts. And we have the task, which tells you what you need to do with the information in 20 minutes. And finally, we have the graphs or charts, in this case, a line graph and a table. In a departure from my previous videos, I want to walk you through the 4 key questions that you should ask yourself when you're trying to find out, are these correlated or not correlated? And this will help you plan your essay effectively. The first question is, what are both graphs about? Well, this line chart, which is data from the UK, looks at 3 age groups, 15 to 24, 35 to 44, and 65 to 74 years of age. And the y-axis tells us how much money in Great British pounds per week. So what does this mean? Disposable income is the money you have left over after you've paid for rent and bills and etc. This is the money you use to enjoy your life, to buy things. Now, what does the table show us? The table shows us 6 things that people bought, or 6 things that were sold, and data is collected over 4 years. And it reflects a change in sales up or down in these periods. Now, what's the second question? How might there be a relationship or correlation between the charts? Well, if you got money and you spend money, which of these 4 might it be? That's right. There must be, or there could be, some cause-effect relationship. Now, this is typical for all task 1. We want to know what are the main features of each chart. Okay, so which aspect should we look at? Well, do we want to describe every single year? No. Do we want to describe every single year from the table? Not if it's not necessary. So let's look at some interesting things. Highest and the lows, shall we? For the youngest age group, wow, there's a peak in how much money they could spend in about 2004. This seems to connect with a bump from 2001 to 2004 in trainers and video games. That sounds like the kind of thing that young people might like to spend their money on. We also see another peak later on in 2007, 2008. This seems to correlate with a minor bump here in trainers and video games in 2007. I see a connection. How about the 35 to 44-year-olds? Well, they had a peak right over here in 2008. Ah, I see a peak here in business suits, books, and children's toys. If you have kids, you're probably going to be spending quite a bit of money on those kids. And for the older group, the seniors, well, there's almost no change. It's a consistent amount of disposable income. Well, that seems to correlate with a static or steady amount of sales for reading glasses. I think there's a correlation. Now, there's something I need to talk to you about. Be very careful when you try to find a connection, whether you're talking about a line chart on its own, a bar graph, a pie chart, or even if you're looking at a process. Do not dig too deep into what you see. Whether it's a process for making ethanol and you think you see sugarcane, if the picture doesn't show sugarcane, don't try to put that information in there. You could be penalized for getting information that's not explicitly said. Now, in this case, it looks like there's a strong correlation, but you don't want to say that, well, a peak in spending money in 2008 directly resulted in higher purchases of these 3 items. No, 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 no. The chart doesn't tell you that. What you can do, if you want to suggest it, is use hedging language like might, could, likely, probably. For example, a peak in spending money in 2008 seems to have led to an increase, may have been related to an increase, could have been connected to an increase in the purchase of suits, books, and children's toys. This is safer It's much better to use in your academic writing. So how can we organize the essay? Well, we could do one approach, the 4 paragraph, where we have an intro, the conclusion or overview, and the body one, which is only about the line chart, and the body two, which is only about the table. But if we have a connection, maybe this one looks better. Body one is about the youngest age group, the correlation there. Body two is about the correlation in the 35 to 44-year-old age group. And body three, which is for the oldest age group. That seems like the right path to me. So when we get to the introduction, it's the same. If we're given an introduction for both charts, we need to find a way to paraphrase. So here's what it looks like. Feel free to pause the video and read. Okay, now to the overview. Here's the tricky thing. I know in the past I've taught you to come up with an overview or a broad statement about one chart and then another statement where you group the trends. This is going to get long and wordy when we have 2 charts. Well, I mean, just looking at the table, I might be struggling just a little bit to figure out how to describe the little trends in there. So why not go for the simplest route? There is correlation, right? Well, how about this? Overall, the data indicates that the sales levels of 6 different products may be linked to the amount of spending money available to different age groups in the population. That that complex sentence alone gives me a nice overview of what's happening here. We're talking about the correlation. And now here's body one, body two. Feel free to pause the video and read this. And finally, body three. And now, thank you for making it this far. You've come with me to the end of the video. Here's the essay in its entirety. You don't always have to have a 4 paragraph essay. If you need 5, that's perfectly okay, as long as it's clear and logical and how you've grouped the information makes sense. I have an introduction which paraphrases the rubric. I have an overview paragraph that, that talks about what each shows and demonstrates a connection between the two. And we have a body paragraph for each of the age groups and hedging language to show that there might be some kind of connection. Thank you very much. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like.